Hello and welcome to another Nutrition Chat where I sit down with members of the society from all kinds of backgrounds and just talk about their experiences, where they are at the moment, and any thoughts on the future. My great privilege and pleasure today to introduce Professor Mary Ward from Ulster University, who has just become president of the Nutrition Society. Mary, welcome.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you for joining us in the palatial surroundings of the library here at the Royal Society. We do these chats wherever we can.
Yeah, great. An absolutely lovely choice. It's a privilege to be here. Beautiful room.
Great, thank you. So why don't we start with, for those who don't know anything about you, particularly the members, kind of a few minutes of your career journey so far.
Okay, so I began my nutrition career in Dublin. I studied my BSc Honours in Human Nutrition and Dietetics at Trinity College, Dublin, under the leadership of one of our emeritus presidents, Professor Mike Gibney. And little did I know when I graduated from Trinity that our paths would cross in the future. I think as a young student, you're quite naive.
Never think you'll be the president as well.
Certainly never thought I was the president, and actually never thought I'd probably see Mike Gibney again. But how wrong was I? So that was a great experience. So I spent 4 years in Dublin. It was a joint degree program with the then Dublin Institute of Technology. So as an RD with a degree in human nutrition, and yeah, it was a terrific experience. And from there, I worked as a clinical dietitian in the NHS for a number of years, but felt a bit restless in that role. And really, I think what I'd always enjoyed as part of my degree was the research element. So that was probably the highlight of my undergraduate degree, was the research highlight. So after a couple of years working within the health service, I returned to education.
So is that quite unusual to not kind of do the undergraduate, the graduate, the PhD back to back?
Probably, yes. And especially, I think, once you have begun working within the NHS, as a dietitian. And back then we didn't have any clinical fellowships or anything. So, and actually it was my boss who put an ad on my desk one day and said, "I think you might be interested in this." And I said, "Really? You're trying to get rid of me?"
That's called constructive dismissal.
But it turned out to be actually an excellent move. So I moved to Ulster University and began my PhD with Helene McNulty, another member of the Nutrition Society, and I was, in fact, her second student. And Helene was very interested in folic acid and its role in the prevention of neurotube defects at that time. I didn't get directly into that area at the time. I was more focused on cardiovascular disease and the role of B vitamins and plasma homocysteine, which in those days was emerging as the new cholesterol. So that was a really interesting journey, Helene, and I was co-supervised by Professor Sean Strain.
Another
great mentor, and also had mentorship from Professor John Scott at Trinity College Dublin, who was a really amazing biochemist. I was very fortunate with my team, and I got a really excellent opportunity. And in fact, I think I was lucky because when I started the PhD, I enjoyed working within the clinical setting, but I just wanted to do something further or more. So I was able to combine my studies actually and go back into the clinical setting to recruit some of my participants for my human intervention studies. So really was combining, the best of both worlds. And it's an important life lesson for younger researchers. Don't forget about your past and the skills that you have gained to that point. It's really nice to be able to use those and combine them as you move forward. So, it really stood to me that I had already worked within the health service. It opened a lot of doors more easily for me you know, in terms of accessing patients and accessing volunteers for my studies. So,
and what influence did the Mike Gibneys and Sean and Helene, what kind of, I don't want to use the phrase mentor, but did they have having those sort of people at key points in your early career, was that really important?
Really important. I think for me, they absolutely instilled the importance of science and evidence from a really early start. And they also were just so enthusiastic conducting research. That's also where I became introduced to the Nutrition Society. I had probably been a student member as an undergraduate, but it wasn't really, you know, I kind of, you know, I accessed any opportunities there were for undergraduates, but I wasn't an active member of the Nutrition Society. But at Ulster and at Coleraine, you know, that was certainly everybody, you know, became a member of the Nutrition Society as a student, and the postgraduate section was a very vibrant section across Ireland at that time. And that really was where I did my, you know, my growing up in terms of nutrition. And
so did you take part in the postgrad events?
Absolutely.
Yeah, because that's such a, gosh, of all the things I've seen in 9 years, as a single success activity, that is it to me. That defines what the Nutrition Society, particularly the Irish section, is.
Yeah,
that 2-day event is fantastic.
I think in terms of bringing early career researchers on, giving you a platform, giving you a voice in a really supportive community. For me, I was terrified. You know, I had come from the health service, so I really saw myself as a dietitian who doesn't know very much. So the first postgrad meeting terrified me because now I was in this esteemed scientific arena and I had to talk about science. You know, I really was lacking in confidence at the time. And the other great thing was that it really gives you a practice opportunity before you present at the summer meeting.
It's a safe space, isn't it, in many respects?
Yeah. So my first oral, during my PhD, Coleraine hosted the main summer meeting. And that was, my abstract was selected for an oral communication. And in fact, I won the prize for best oral communication at that time. It's a long time ago now. I must have been about 2006 or 7. I can't remember the exact date. And that was a very big occasion for me. So never underestimate for students how daunting it is to present at the winter meeting or the summer meeting. Yeah. It's probably the first real presentation you've ever given. And the audience is, you know, if you think too much about who your audience are, it can be very, it can really unsettle you. Yeah. But for me, the Nutrition Society was wonderful and there was great support for the Nutrition Society. The other thing that Sean Strain and Helene were very good at was encouraging us to present our research and to apply for funding to go to conferences. And that wasn't something that all students within biomedical sciences at the time were encouraged to do. So within nutrition, we were uniquely encouraged to outreach, to go present our work at any opportunity. And that opened a lot of networking opportunities for us. When I look back now, not all students were offered that opportunity. Yeah. And I think that has a really important legacy in terms of your career going forward. You know, if you can make those networks early on, it's amazing how important they are. Is not a big community, no. Relatively speaking. And those early connections can be very influential and very important. So we were lucky to be in an environment where we were encouraged, supported. In return, we had to work hard. Yeah. And, you know, if you worked hard and put in the effort, you know, we got rewards in terms of being able to get out there and present and show our work. And
that's where I think our conference programs, I mean, there's 5 or 6 of them a year on average, but they play such an important role, don't they, in particularly post-COVID, because I went to that first postgrad conference immediately after COVID, where there were people there who had never presented.
Yes.
They've done, all that time had been spent at home in front of a screen.
Yeah.
Even meeting 2 or 3 people was almost like a scary experience for them. And now suddenly they're standing up and presenting. We take that for granted, but our conferences give that platform, don't they? That networking piece, the ability to, because we fund through the grants program, a lot of people come into conferences. The Irish section do that as well. So
and it really gives a student great opportunity, and I strongly encourage the students, to work hard, get their abstracts submitted. And I think also the standard that we expect within the society, our abstracts are really, they're a great starting point for a full manuscript, because they're a little bit more detailed than some of the abstracts that you submit to other conferences. So they're like an extended abstract nearly, which is really great in terms of, I always think with my own PhD students, if you've submitted your abstract to the Nutrition Society, then that's the first step in your manuscript completed. So it really is a great stepping stone to having your first paper published. And I think that's really important in terms of growth and development.
Great. Fascinating. So here we are now. What are you actively engaged in at the moment?
I'm still at Ulster. So I remained at Ulster, and I work with a fantastic group of people. We have a very vibrant group at Ulster, and my own research is focused around B vitamins and 1-carbon metabolism. And I'm still interested in cardiovascular disease, so that's still an area that I am really interested in. However, I'm also have extended to look at other other diseases of aging, such as osteoporosis, bone health, and also cognitive health. Really, probably more focused on prevention and in terms of trying to promote healthy aging from the point of view particularly of B vitamins and 1-carbon metabolism. And we've had some I've been very fortunate to have made a sort of a discovery in my career, which is really, it's been fantastic. So within the group, we were the first to ever report that the B vitamin riboflavin could lower blood pressure in people who carried a common genetic defect that impacts folate metabolism. So that was very exciting. And certainly that has been an influence on my career, because it has many of the students that I have worked in that area. So that's been great. In addition to my work in B vitamins, I'm also very excited to be part of a large all-island of Ireland new co-centre on transforming the food system across the island of Ireland. So this is a really fantastic initiative and a very timely one, given the fact that we all as a population and as a global population have to move in the direction of a sustainable diet, but that has to be a healthy sustainable diet. And so we need to make sure that as we move away from meat, which we have to a certain extent, and move towards plant, that we are eating healthily, that we are ensuring that we are meeting all our macronutrient requirements. So we're doing this using a food systems approach, and it will involve all of the nutrition institutions across the island. It's being led by UCD and Queen's, and we're all partnering up, and also involves government agencies. So I think it's just fantastic, and also UKRI partners. I meant, and we're looking at, from their point of view, really looking at the food systems and the economy aspects. So it's a very exciting time for the island of Ireland in terms of nutrition, because it really brings a lot of forces together, and I think the outputs from this will be very significant. And hopefully there will be lessons that we can share, in terms of across the UK, across Europe, and globally that will emerge from this co-centre. So that's another exciting development to be
lots going
involved
on.
in. Yeah,
Wow.
I
And on
really,
top of all of that, you've just become president of the Nutrition Society.
yeah.
Congratulations for that.
Thank you very much, and it's a huge honour and a privilege, Mark. The Nutrition Society has been so important to me, you know, all down through the years, and has offered me many opportunities. I've always been involved. So, and again, that's something I would say to the younger members: get involved.
Yeah.
You know, be a volunteer. I've got the pictures with the blue T-shirt on, helping out with.
I haven't seen those yet. I've actually overlay a still of that onto this video.
If anybody accuses me of not being here for the long haul, I have. But yeah, it's great, you know, and when you're a young researcher, you know, volunteering and getting involved in organizing meetings, you learn so much. You learn about how a meeting is constructed, how it's, you know, put together, all of the work that goes on behind the scenes,
the finances, the sponsorship,
in the year, and in the year lead up, and the months lead up, and then you know, right to the actual conference when it comes around and what has to be done, all hands on deck. So I've been involved. I'm an active member of the Irish section. I was an ordinary member. I was the membership secretary, and I was the chair of the Irish section as well. So really actively involved in the committee, and it was great. You know, there was great enthusiasm, and certainly one of the highlights, as you mentioned before, apart from our Irish section meeting, is always the postgrad meeting. Yeah, and there, in addition to being able to present your work, it's very focused also on training and providing training opportunities and career support, you know, to the younger researchers. So the society has been hugely important. I had also the opportunity as a young researcher to attend IUNS and FENS conferences, you know, and that's another huge bonus when you're working as a nutrition researcher. You
great gatherings.
Yeah.
I mean, the first one I went to, there were 3,000 people there. It's mind-blowing. And then if you've been to 2 or 3 of them, you meet people you haven't seen for 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
And it just becomes this great big family feel, which I'm sure is a nutrition thing. I'm not sure you get that in other disciplines. It does feel like one big collegiate group of people.
Yeah, and it's great, I think, you know, as well, it exposes you and opens your mind. Particularly IUNS, you get to hear more about the global issues, and it's a fantastic opportunity. And you mentioned earlier that one of the benefits of being a member of the Nutrition Society is that we do try and support our younger researchers to offer bursaries to attend these big meetings, and that, you know, that for me was amazing. You know, I got to go to Montreal, and I, you know, as a young scientist, and it was, I still remember, you know, the awe of hearing the people whose papers you read all the time, hearing them for the, you know, the first time, and that was a real buzz. You know, you really, you know, you do get a buzz. So you forget those things when you're pushing on a bit.
No, it's the other way around. People are saying, "Oh gosh, it's Mary Ward." Right?
I doubt it.
So thinking of the future, then as we kind of wrap up here, what are your first? Well, first of all, what are your first impressions of becoming the president, the way we're run, the way we're set up, and then how do you see the next couple of years developing?
Yeah, no, I mean, my first impressions are, gosh, how much work goes on behind the scenes. I mean, although we're all members and we're aware vaguely of what's happening, you know, really over the past few months, it has been an eye-opener in terms of the huge work and effort that goes on to keep, you know, the nutrition, to make the Nutrition Society as successful as it is. The whole publication side of things is really, you know, it's massive. And we really depend on the support of our members to, you know, to sit on editorial committees, to act as reviewers. Our journals, you know, are of a very high standard, and that's really down to our membership, you know, who work so hard to produce the best science, to source, you know, the best topics to cover, but also the people on the ground who are doing the reviewing and sitting on editorial committees, and a huge amount of work there, really most impressive. Also, the special interest groups are, really interesting development that appeared to be going from strength to strength. Really nice to see that.
Hard to imagine they're only coming up for like their first anniversary.
Oh, it's amazing because they already seem to have been around, for quite some time. And then, it's also fantastic to get to know the team at the office. There's a huge amount of work going on under your own great leadership. And I think what I really see, how I see the society, Mark, and I think what's really important in terms of its success is I see a much more strategic nature of the society. And I think, that's maybe something that you've introduced or have had a part in developing. And I think that really, sets us apart a little bit. And it's really important in the era that we're living in.
Yeah, getting there was a journey that all your predecessors have helped. Catherine and then Philip and then Julie have all played a part. But you're right, now you've got to keep strategic.
Yeah.
And that's always a challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're in very challenging times. There is no doubt about it. There are huge issues around the whole publication world. We are bombarded with evidence suggesting that ultra-processed foods, is something that we need to be, very careful about in terms of going forward. And, we really need the highest level evidence, in terms of that whole area. So, I think ultra-processed foods is something we need to be looking at. We need to think about it, but we need very clear evidence and guidance. And we're also, on a global scale, I think the Nutrition Society have a really enviable presence globally. And that for me is very important, that we are known internationally, that the good work that we do, the highest quality scientific evidence that's shared across our global partners. That's very important, and particularly as we see the challenges of food availability, over the coming decades in association with climate change. These are major issues that we can't ignore and we are part of, and we have to form strategic partnerships across the world. We can't be insular. It's not just confined to our little islands.
And somebody said to me very early on, and I cannot remember, I keep trying to remember who it was, in my first couple of years said, you've got to remember, science knows no borders. And that's hugely important from that global collaboration perspective.
I think, again, I'm learning more and more, but we do have some very important strategic partnerships formed, and I think that will really help us to be a player at the table. Yeah. I think there are a lot of big issues that we alone, can't tackle, but we certainly can be a voice at the table.
Great. Well, thank you very much. I look forward to the next. I'm sure we'll be traveling the world together, shaking hands and building collaborations. and thank you for your time and good luck with your presidency.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for joining us, and I look forward to the next chat coming up next month. Thank you very much.